Hello and welcome to this recap of today's CodeBuddies.org live coding session. CodeBuddies is a global community of amazing people who help each other become better at software development through conversations on Slack and peer-to-peer organized study groups and virtual hangouts. Today we didn't have too complicated of a coding session. We're not working with any Python or JavaScript logic. We're really just improving the markup for the registration form, so we'll have more fine-grained control over the layout. So just for context, we're rendering a model form in Django. And a model form does a lot for you automatically. It takes a model and will render all the fields, allowing you to either whitelist or blacklist, kind of include or exclude specific fields, override widgets and things like that. So it's already pretty flexible and saves you a lot of coding. It gets the fields directly from the model. You can see here, and they map one-to-one to UI widgets of the appropriate type. So for character fields, you've got text inputs. For an integer field, we have a numeric input here. And you can see our JavaScript logic there. And for email field, you have an email field in the UI. You can see, so the browser can do a little bit of validation for the email address. For Boolean fields, we get checkboxes. And for foreign key fields, as well as many-to-many, which is a special type of foreign key, it'll actually traverse that relationship and bring in the options from the related table and render them or provide them as options that can be rendered in the template. So it's very powerful, and all we've done today is essentially take a form that was four lines of code or so, where you define your form tag, you pass in a security token, there's a one-liner that renders the form fields, a button, and closing form tag. And we basically kind of exploded all those fields so that we would have more control over the markup, the classes, and things like that. But we don't have to read this one by one because there's just a lot of repetition here. It's really mostly copy and paste. There's really three main sections of code that are relevant here. I should also give a shout out to the blog Simple is Better Than Complex. This pattern and some of the code is copied directly from that blog. It's an excellent resource if you're learning Django. Many different topics are covered there. There's a community forum, really great resource to turn to. Almost as good as the Django docs, and in some ways better. It depends on the article, but some of the tutorials are so to the point and also comprehensive that it can be easier to see the forest from the trees. Sometimes the Django docs can be a little bit overwhelming in the level of detail, whereas Simple is Better Than Complex kind of distills it at the right level of detail as a tutorial. So it's really good to complement, a good complement to the Django docs. So inside of our form, we need to handle non-field specific errors. I'm not sure what types of errors could occur, but in any case, we're going to loop over those if they do occur and display them in a list. And I can apply bootstrap classes to this list so that they're colored, so it's attention grabbing and things like that. And there are basically two types of fields here in terms of the code structure. Everything from here, ADA, accessible accommodations, memorial meeting, the email field, age, first and last name, they're following this pattern. It's essentially a form group. In the page context, we have a form, the model form. It has all of the fields from the model and some meta fields like the label, errors, the field itself, and help text. We're going to be adding help text at a later point, but at least it's rendered here in the template. So this block is just copy and pasted for all these fields and just change the field name. Pretty straightforward. This code is available on GitHub, github.com/westernfriend, so you can check out the code and ask questions. Feel free to use it in your own projects. I'm going to scroll down each of the fields here in comments to the days attending field. And you can see this is a little bit taller. There's a little bit more from for example, this ADA accessible field is the previous template. And the main difference here is that this has options that are pulled from that other table, or if it was just a regular select field, you could define the choices manually without having to do any foreign key relationship. But since I wanted these choices to be defined in the database, I'll just show you real quick. We have the event days. It's a table in the database, and this way we don't have to hard code certain aspects. We can reuse this project hopefully at a future point, or perhaps somehow evolve the project to be more general purpose. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, it just didn't seem like a good idea to hard code certain things like the event dates or the accommodations options. So for both of these fields that have options, we're going to display the label, the errors, and then rather than rendering the form here, you can see this double curly braces actually just renders the form field itself. We're actually going to use the %, all of the template operators are surrounded by the %, and the curly braces are used to interpolate the values of variables and properties into the template itself. So we're going to loop over, so we just pass in that same field and iterate over the field. And so in the iter method, Django is going to pass us the field values back for each of those, and I think it just uses the dunder string method, dunder str method, to render the string representation of the option, because this is a custom string representation I've defined here, and this is just a date format. I think it's probably default. I don't remember specifying that. Maybe I did. I can't recall off the top of my head if I specified the default formatting string, but that's about it. So when you just use this without any method attached to it or without piping it to a filter, it's just going to use the string representation that you define in the model. And that's really it. Just repeated that here. And then as you can see, our JavaScript works. So if you're a different age registrant, let's say we're 18, the prices will change at that threshold. If you're 26 years old, your prices will go up a little bit. Adults pay a little bit more. And children under 5 and under are free to attend. So it's a sliding scale. And we don't want the event to be cost prohibitive to begin with, but do have to cover costs. So it's like a week-long event. These aren't even the full days. This is just the basic, just a basic amount of data to get it up and running, and so that we can experiment with the code. All right. Well, that's the summary of what we worked on today. Just taking a one-liner and expanding it out so that we have more control over the markup. If you're interested in contributing to this type of project, either working with Django, for example, or React, CodeBuddies.org is in the middle of a rewrite, and the backend is being rewritten with the Django framework, and the front end will be with React. And we could use developers of all skill levels. Everyone is welcome, and we've got tasks to suit your interests and skills. So stop on by github.com/codebuddies and look for the backend repository or the React front end, or whatever project you're interested in getting started in. Otherwise, hope to see you on codebuddies.org in any of the study groups. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.